Welcome, high school basketball fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for a boys basketball semi-state preview here on the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengel. I am joined by Tipton, Tribune, and Elwood Call Leader sports editor Michelle Garmon, and partners on the Action Sports Network, Grant Shouse and Kevin Helfrich. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. And what I'm going to do is start in 4A in the north and work our way down to Class A in the south and get everybody's opinions on each. Of course, when we talk about more local semi-states, we will talk a little longer. We start Class 4A in the north at the Elkhart Semistate. And a couple quick are back this year, which is interesting after Fishers lost to Carmel when they were expected to be here. It's kind of a strange way that's worked out, but we'll start at Elkhart, and at 10 a.m. it is number 6 Northridge against Homestead. Northridge 25-1, Homestead 20-6, the only team to beat Oak Hill this year. And then it's number 2 Crown Point 23-1 against 20-7 Fort Wayne Snyder, and again championship at 8. And Grant, I said after Fishers lost last week, the Crown Point now might be the favorite. Do you think so?
I would agree. They're a really well-rounded team. They've been playing together for a while. And you could kind of see this coming. They've been to the semi-state the last 2 years and have unfortunately had to run into the juggernaut of Fishers every time. And this is kind of now their time to shine a little bit. They've got Dikembe Shaw, who's the Division I player who I believe is going to Indiana State. They've got another really good player named Mason Darrell, who's a nice guard. They're both very athletic. They're a team that has been coached by probably a future Hall of Fame coach and Clint Swan. And I would say Crown Point's probably the favorite in that. But again, you pair them with other solid teams there like Homestead and Northridge that really make it interesting.
By the way, Dikembe Shaw going to UIC.
I think Crown Point and Northridge can make an interesting championship game. I know Homestead's had a good year this year.
Snyder just beat Carmel. That's all.
I just think Crown Point, they've been good now for a couple years, and won't be surprised if it's them going down there. I think that semi-state, though, could be a very fun one to go watch as a fan.
I saw Homestead play Oak Hill earlier in the season. I was really impressed with their inside-out game of Jake Kuhlman, the guard, and then Max Welker, the inside player, 6'5" guy. He really handled Oak Hill. Oak Hill's obviously one of the best 2A teams in the state. Their defense is outstanding. But you got Northridge, you got the Brady Scholl. I think he's the difference maker in this one, though. I think Northridge wins a very close basketball game, and I think Crown Point beats Fort Wayne Snyder. I think that game's going to be closer than some people think, though, too. That's a Snyder team coming off a big win last week, and momentum can go a long way. But I like Crown Point to come out of this semi-state, though, in the end. I think they're going to be the best team there on Saturday.
I think it's going to be Crown Point and Homestead, and I think Crown Point is going to win this one. And at Newcastle in the south, it is number 4 Mount Vernon against Decatur Central. Mount Vernon, of course, led by All-American candidate Luke Ertl, are 25-3. Decatur Central 20-6. The game's at 10 a.m. Number 9 New Albany against number 7 Terre Haute North. Terre Haute North 24-3. New Albany 22-5. This one being played at Chrysler Arena in Newcastle, and Mount Vernon heavy favorite in the first game. Grant, should be a really good second game, and I cannot believe that Decatur Central is the last public school in Indianapolis left in the tournament.
It's one of those years where all the good teams got beat, and Decatur Central's a good team. They deserve to be there, but Mount Vernon's different. I'm going to go ahead and probably pick them. They'll come out of this and match up with Crown Point in the state championship. That would actually be a rematch of the Hall of Fame championship at Newcastle, played back just before Christmas, where Crown Point actually won that game. The second game with New Albany and Terre Haute North, I know Terre Haute North has the Wolfie kid who's the coach's son, Todd Wolfie's son. But New Albany, you could see this coming where they've had really good players the last few years. They have a sophomore this year, Noah Washington, who's a great player and actually is a Division I prospect at the Power 5 levels. So New Albany's going to be a tough team to beat.
By the way, New Albany's first regional championship since the Romeo Langford Sean East days.
Yeah, 2018 they won a regional championship. I'm sure you were there in the semi-state when they lost to David Bell and Warren Central in the last second shot.
I sure was. I was in the opposite corner of the gym.
And there were 9,000 people there for that. They're coached by a really good young coach named Jason Jones, who has been playing at a high level. I actually saw them last year, kind of the year before they took off this year.
But they were in Jeffersonville sectional last year.
So. Yeah, keep in mind that they ran into, again, the eventual 4A state champs in Jeffersonville. So this is going to be a really competitive semi-state. I know it just kind of talked up New Albany, but I like the duo of Luke Ertl and Max Weiss to come out and cut down the nets and advance to Cambridge.
Don't sell short this Terre Haute North team, by the way.
Well, myself, I think it's going to be Mount Vernon and New Albany in the championship. And Mount Vernon, of course, they are led by Luke Ertl, who's got that nice, smooth left-handed jumper, and I think he's one of just an incredible player. And I think Purdue is very fortunate and will love having him over there. If Mount Vernon can get to Cambridge, and it would be another exciting game, I think, if it is Mount Vernon and Crown Point. And Mount Vernon already took care of one of its losses. They got Pike in the regional, and after Pike beat them in an overtime game during the regular season. So, interesting.
By the way, Kevin, I want to point out that Terre Haute North has won 21 games in a row after starting 3-3.
Well, I'll just start with that game then, because I was going to take Terre Haute North in a close one. I think that may be a mild upset or whatnot, but I like Terre Haute North in that contest. And going back to that Mount Vernon Decatur Central game, had the opportunity to see Joe Bradburn coach when he was at DeKalb. My father was the assistant principal up there, and so in about the mid-2000s, he was up there. Had a losing season the first year, but the 3 years after that, it did nothing but win. So very impressed with the way he can coach, and can't have a better guy to take a shot for you when the game's on the line than Luke Ertl. So I'll take Mount Vernon in that one, and I like Mount Vernon to come out of this semi-state.
I'm taking Mount Vernon too, and I think New Albany's going to win that game. I just think that you can't discount Terre Haute North in the semifinal. I do think Mount Vernon took care of the toughest competition they're going to have between themselves and the state finals in Pike last week, and huge win. And I think Mount Vernon's and Crown Point going to be a heck of a championship. All right, let's move to Class 3A at the Berry Bowl in Logansport. And hey, guys, Delta's back. 16-10. Delta takes on 20-7 New Haven, who Grant just saw in the regional. And then it's 23-4 Columbia City against 15-12 East Chicago Central, and what's kind of a wide open semi-state, Grant.
It is, and we've been kind of alluding to that. You could kind of see this leading up, even when the draw came out. You're just like, man, I just don't know who would come out of the North in 3A. We thought West Lafayette, and
yes.
I wouldn't have been shocked if West Lafayette, but just they had the wheels fall off the bus last week, I guess. New Haven was way more physical than them. They were way more athletic than them. And I know for a fact they're way more physical and athletic than Delta. I saw Delta back in early February, and they had just kind of gone through a rough stretch. I guess the regular season was kind of a rough stretch, and they were coming off a game there before I saw them against Mississippi, where I was talking to Coach Detweiler. I asked about the Greenfield game. I go, how's that game against Greenfield the other night? He goes, it was awful. We played horrendous. It was the worst effort of the season. And that day against Mississippi, they gave a good effort, and they are they're a really talented team. They know how to win. They've done this now 4 years in a row when you've done it 4 years in a row and you have kids that know how to win and have watched winning in other sports and know how to compete, that's a recipe for success. So Delta knows how to win, but I think that New Haven's more talented. Delta's going to be more disciplined, but I like New Haven in that first game. And then in the second game with Columbia City and East Chicago Central. East Chicago Central, I'm sure, kind of the same as New Haven. They've got a really young coach. Their coach has got to be the youngest in the state up at East Chicago. It's Alab Maru, and he's like 25 years old. Like, he's not much older than me. And Columbia City's the team that actually lost to New Haven during the year. I think you could see an all Northeast state semi-state championship with Columbia City and New Haven. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to go ahead and take New Haven to come out of the North and advance to the state championship. And I know we'll talk about the South in a second, but whoever comes out of the North and whoever they would play in the South, whether it's Silver Creek or Cathedral, is going to have their work cut out for them.
Huge underdog. Huge underdog.
Huge.
Even if it's number 14 Roncalli, they're an underdog.
Yes, absolutely.
I think this 3A North semi-state probably is maybe one of the North semi-states that I don't know how interesting it will be to watch because, like you said, I think the winner is going to be a huge underdog
Very
in the
competitive.
state championship. Yes, could be. It's going to be. I think it will be New Haven coming out of there, but I think it's just going to be the team that gets the best guard play that day and really makes shots and especially free throws. But I like New Haven to come out of there. East Chicago Central's kind of intriguing.
I'm going to have to go with the counterparts here. I like New Haven to come out of this semi-state. Now, I will say I think New Haven's going to be the more athletic team against Delta, but Delta's going to be the more disciplined team. It's kind of two contrasting styles. I think New Haven's going to want to get that ball up and down the court. I think Delta be a little bit more deliberate on the offensive end and try to slow this game down a little bit, but I think New Haven wins in a close one, and then I like Columbia City to come out of that game against East Chicago Central. I think that game's going to be closer than what Harold's predicting. I don't know that Columbia City is really as good as their record indicates, though. I don't see them winning the semi-state. I think New Haven gets them again in the championship game.
Wow. I'm taking Columbia City. All right, at Seymour in the South, it is number 14 Roncalli against number 1 Silver Creek. Roncalli 18-7, Silver Creek 28-1. That game at 10 a.m. at Lloyd Scott Gymnasium. Then at approximately noon, and assuming the first game doesn't go into a couple of overtimes, is number 2 Princeton 23-3 against number 3 Cathedral 22-5. So at Seymour Grant, we got number 1, number 2, number 3, and an underrated number 14.
Seymour's the place to be on Saturday.
I think so.
And if you love basketball and you've never been to Seymour's gym, I would suggest you go. It is one of the neatest gyms. It's a palace. That place is incredible. One of my favorite gyms in the state. And some of the best matchups in the state. I will be at Muncie, but if Oak Hill were to lose in the first game at Muncie, I will probably be at Seymour that night for a potential championship. 1 and 2, Silver Creek and Cathedral, and what should be a great game. Of course, Greg, you're right there, and you know Brandon Hoffman, and you know those kids like Brandon Hunter and Perry, his dad, and everything. They're a fun team to watch because they run their system the way that good programs are supposed to do it. They have a good youth program. They develop these kids. They develop great players like over the years, like Trey Coffin-Wren and Cooper Jacoby, and just great players that have come through Silver Creek. Kid named Zane Gross, even Steve Green back in the day. So there's tradition. I'm probably going to take Silver Creek to win the first game. The second game with Cathedral and Princeton. I know Princeton's really good, but I'm going to take Cathedral. And looking at a Cathedral Silver Creek matchup, I'll probably take Silver Creek to cut down the nets and advance to Gainbridge.
Give me the exact same thing.
I take Silver Creek in the first game, take Cathedral in the second game, and I will take Silver Creek coming out, like Grant, just a lot of that basketball tradition, and it means a lot down there. Want to reiterate Grant's view about the Seymour gym. That is a fantastic venue to watch high school basketball. Tremendous atmosphere.
It is, but I think there's an even better one coming up, Kevin.
I'm going to take Silver Creek against Roncalli. I like them, but I also going to take Cathedral against Princeton. But I'm going to go a little bit different here. I'm going to take an Indianapolis school to get to the state finals, and I'm going to like Cathedral to upset Silver Creek and punch their ticket to Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Wow.
I'll be surprised if anyone beats Silver Creek. I'll just say that, Kevin.
Greg, just to add, I think Silver Creek could probably win the 4A.
And now to the semi-state that we're most interested in. No offense to the others, but Muncie Fieldhouse, another great venue for high school basketball. 10 a.m. It is 15-11 Lures against number 2 Oak Hill, 25-1. And it is number 3 and 25-1 Westview against 21-5 and 9th ranked Lapel at noon, with the championship at 8 o'clock. And Grant, this is kind of a wide open semi-state, but Oak Hill's the favorite going in, right?
I think they're the favorite, but don't overlook Lures if you're Oak Hill. Lures actually beat Oak Hill, and they played over the summer. I know that's over the summer. It's a different style. You're playing in different situations, but Lures is filled with athletes. Looking at the roster, I remember some of their kids from football that played. Ale Taylor's their leading scorer. 13 a game's a big offensive lineman for them, going to play Division I. I think he's going to Valparaiso to play football. And then they have a good guard named Kamari Davis, 13 points a game as well. So this is a Lures team you cannot overlook. They're athletic. They do present problems that Oak Hill is going to have to battle. And it's something you can't overlook. And hopefully that's not the case. I think Oak Hill can win the first game. The second game will be really fun with Westview and Lapel, but with Oak Hill against Benton Central last week, they did not play their greatest game. I know they won by 19 points. They kind of let Benton Central hang around.
I like Oak Hill, and I think for Oak Hill with Lures, will probably be rebounding. Oak Hill's going to have to make sure they control the boards. But again, you talk about backcourts and guards and how important they are. And I just think the two Tonagals are really good. And then with a healthy Sugar, give me Oak Hill in that first game. I do think it'll be close. I like Lapel and how they can spread you out and score from all 5 scores and everything. Also, to do that, you've got to be hitting threes. And if you're not, you could be in trouble. And I think the Lapel Westview game may be a really, really good game. And, I'll be pulling because Lapel's close and for Kevin Cherry and everything, but I will not be surprised if Westview wins that game. I think Oak Hill will be making the trip to Gainbridge, though, the following week.
And Kevin, I know you know a little bit about Westview. They're capable of winning this too.
Boy, they really are. Let's look at this whole semi-state. These are tradition-rich programs. All 4 of them have won state titles in basketball. So one of these teams is probably going to win again this year. Let's talk about Westview. This is a program that's won 24 sectional titles, 7 regionals, 3 semi-states, 2 state titles. They are just a program that is constantly there year after year. But they've got a couple really good players. First of all, you start with the senior, Caden Grau. He's over 1,000-point scorer. He transferred there from Bluffton after his freshman year. His father, Carl, used to be the coach at Bluffton, but moved up to Westview, and he's been now there 3 years, and he's a very fine player. He's going to go to Hope in Michigan to continue his basketball career. And then they've got another guy Austin Slayball, who absolutely destroyed Gary 21st Century in the regional finals last week. He went for 33. He's a very good basketball player. So, but Westview's not real deep. Their starting 5 is about the ones who are going to do the scoring and that sort of thing. The point guard is only 5'5". Bryce Yoder, he's a freshman. He had a dad who's got quite the pedigree. He played college basketball at South Alabama.
I was going to say, Westview has a Yoder. I'm stunned.
There's a couple of them, actually. There's 2 in the starting lineup. But, yeah, Westview is just a good program. They're going to play really hard. I think they beat Lapel. I haven't seen Lapel play this year, but I like this Westview team. I've watched them a few times this year online just because I know the Grau kid personally. So I've had some interest there, and I played in the Northeast Corner Conference, so I kind of follow that league. And that's a good basketball team. Switching over to Oak Hill and Lures. Boy, that's going to be a good basketball game. Lures is going to be obviously one of the more athletic teams that Oak Hill has seen this year. Oak Hill's played a few of those teams. Marion was pretty athletic. Obviously, Zion Homestead was pretty good as well. And then the win they got against Zionsville also prepared Oak Hill, I think, for this day. I think Oak Hill goes as Jace Tonneville goes. He's kind of the steady to that Eddie. He does it all for them. He scores, he rebounds, he dishes it. I think Will may have more of the upside in his future career or whatever, but I think Jace is the one that kind of holds this thing together for Oak Hill, and they're going to have to get contributions from RJ. RJ came back last week. He's just working himself back into some playing shape, and they're going to have him have a pretty good day, I think, on Saturday. But this is a deep Oak Hill team. They can play seven guys pretty easily, and I think they'll win. But boy, I think this is going to be a really good basketball game. I think the key to Oak Hill is they've got to force Lures to shoot from the perimeter. Lures only shoots a little over 30% from the three-point range. Oak Hill dials it in for 41% from the three-point range. I think that becomes the X factor on Saturday for Oak Hill.
Who's winning it, Kevin?
I'm going to take Oak Hill over Westview in a rematch. The year Oak Hill went on to win the state, but boy, I think they're going to be in for another good one. That one may even go to overtime. It's going to be that close. I think those two teams, are on a collision course in Westview. Their only loss all season was to Northridge, who's playing in the 4A Semistate. They lost to 12 by 12, and Northridge or Westview, they played several 3A schools throughout the year. They play a lot of up in their schedule. They went 12-0 against 3A schools this year. So this is a team that's been challenged. They went 2-1 against 4A schools. So, they won't be afraid of the moment come Saturday night.
I am not picking Lapel to win the semifinal against Westview on Saturday, but I do want to say that Lapel is better than the team that lost 5 games earlier this year. They're better than a 5-loss team, and they definitely have a chance not only to beat Westview, but to win this whole thing, particularly with the emergence of Owen Garber as a kind of a go-to scorer, Grant.
Lapel certainly has figured some things out. I talked to their former head coach, Justin Coomer, the other day, and he was telling me about how Owen Garber has really turned it on in the second half of the year, and it's like averaged 22 a game down the stretch of the season, and has kind of been the engine to their offense in a way. I just like Westview in that. Again, Kevin really touched on it with the Grau kid and the Schleyball kid, and of course, a great Yoder. I'm curious, and this would be a good research. I'm sure someone up there knows if there's ever been a Westview team that didn't have a Yoder on the roster. Like there's no way they've never had one.
Yours.
The tradition, they had a really good coach back in the day named Troy Neely, who led them to 2 state titles. They had another really good coach.
I covered them for the Fort Wayne News Sentinel.
They had another really good coach named Rob Yoder, and I remember that Westview team in 2018, and how fitting would it be for Oak Hill and Westview to match up in the semi-state championship once again. It'll be a heck of a game. That game, when they played in 2018 for a long time, which was 8 years ago this past Tuesday, for the longest time, that was that was by far the best high school basketball game I've ever seen. Until last year, I saw about 3 games in a week span that just took the cake. But I think Saturday, if they were to play in the championship, like Kevin said, could be another all-time classic. Those teams are real similar. They mirror each other. Westview is smart. They've got great IQ, but so does Oak Hill with them 2 Tonigal brothers. They play the game at a high level. Their IQ is off the charts. But the thing is, Westview's got 4 or 5 kids whose IQ is off the charts. I'm going to take Oak Hill to knock off Westview in the championship and another classic in a great game. It's going to be fun, man. And I'm really looking forward to being at Muncie Fieldhouse. I'm looking forward to being there and hopefully see the old alma mater cut down the net Saturday night and advance to Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Great place. Also, great place, 2A South is being played at Southport, and another one of the kind of legendary Indiana gymnasiums. And it starts at 10 a.m. with number 4 Park Heritage against number 6 Triton Central. Park Heritage is 24-4, Triton Central 23-3, and then it's number 8 Linton Stockton 24-4 off of its victory over unbeaten and top-ranked Paoli. A win that Grant predicted. And against 17-8 Austin, of course.
I think Park Heritage is the team to be in the southern part of the state. I'm going to go ahead and just predict that they're going to take on Oak Hill in the 2A state title and be another really good game. Even if Park Heritage were to match up with Westview, it'd be another great game. But I like how that Park Heritage team plays. They've got Trey Shelsky, who's the coach's son. They've got Isaac Pickle, who's a 6'8" kid inside. They're going to be a force to reckon with. I'm going to take them to win both games down at Southport in the championship.
Grant, I'm going to echo you. I think it's going to be Park Heritage. I think it will be Park Heritage and Oak Hill at Gamebridge. Although I will say this, I don't think you can ever count out a Linton team.
That is correct. That's exactly what
I don't think you can ever count out a Linton team, because you talk about another community with some good basketball tradition and kids that know the game, some good basketball IQs, and that would be Linton.
Got 3 for 3, Park Heritage over Linton in the championship, but like Michelle said, do not count out Linton.
Yeah, I kind of like what they're saying, though. I'm going to go with Park Heritage as well, and I think Linton's going to win against Austin. And I think, like they both said, I see an Oak Hill Park Heritage state finals in the near future for those two teams.
Yeah, I wasn't on the Park Heritage bandwagon, but beat Centerville by 20. A team I've been following all year, saying, hey, watch out for the Centerville team. You beat them by 20. That's quite a statement. And we move to Class A in the north. It's at Lafayette, Jeff, and it is number 7 Monroe Central against North Vermilion. North Central 21-4, North Vermilion 16-11. And then it is number 4 Triton against Tri-County. Triton 23-3, Tri-County 16-10. And Grant, this one is the one I think we're most certain about, the two teams that are going to be in the championship game.
Absolutely. Monroe Central and Triton, I think, will probably be in the championship there. I've heard great things about Monroe Central. They've got a couple really good players. They've got a great big inside. I cannot think of his name, so edit that part out. But they're a great team. They really handled Southwood, who's a solid team, last week in the regional. Triton, a team that has a lot of tradition, has been to the state finals before, has had great players come through. Jason Groves, their head coach, has been the head coach for nearly 20 years, if not over 20 years. And the championship will be real interesting. And I'm going to pick Triton to come out of the north in 1A and win the semi-state championship and advance to Gamebridge. I've been saying all week Monroe Central, and who knows, I may be wrong, but I got a feeling the experience and the coaching with Triton can get them to the state finals.
Okay, Grant, people are going to think I don't have an original thought, because I'm echoing a lot about what you're saying.
Me too.
Well, Michelle, now you know how I feel when you always talk before me, because I'm always echoing you.
Hey, I think it will be Triton and Monroe Central, and I like Triton. When I looked at the pairings of their day, my first thought when I looked at that pairing was, or in that semi-state, was Triton's going to win the Class A semi-state, but I think it will be a close win in the championship game over Monroe Central.
I agree. 3 for 3.
Make it 4 for 4. I see those two teams getting to the semi-state championship, and I like Triton as well, so might as well keep it the same.
Then we go to the south, and that is a really good one at my favorite gym, probably in Indiana, and that is the Hatchet House in Washington. And at 10 a.m., it's the team that Grant picked to win the state championship, Bar Reeve, against the team I have picked to win the state championship, Liberty Christian. Bar Reeve ranked number 2 in the state, but of course number 1 is out. Liberty Christian is ranked 9. They have 7 losses, but of course play probably the toughest schedule in all of Class A. And then in the second game, you have 25-2 and third-ranked Hauser against 19-8 and 11th-ranked Bloomfield in what should be a very good semi-state grant.
Should be a fun one. I've only heard good things about the Hatchet house down there, and fortunately for the Bar Reeve folks is that they got to go to Lagodi for the sectional minutes away. I was there for the championship. Their fans are awesome. They're unbelievable. I wrote a story about it on my website.
Don't move on. Give out your website.
.com. You can check it out. It's titled My Sectional Saturday Experience. It was kind of went down there on a whim. They're a really talented team. However, Bar Reeve, they're really well coached. They play the game the right way. They got a great player named Caden Loneker, who's their best player, who's a great shooter. Just the smarts, the IQ. They don't make mistakes. They don't turn the ball over. They play the game the way it was intended to be played. They're not sloppy with the basketball. Now, I don't know if just the game I went to, they just played really well and didn't make many mistakes, or if that's just how they always are, but they're a program that's established and has been around. I liked them in the first game over Liberty Christian. Again, with Bar Reeve having to go to Lagodi for the sectional, they went to Washington last week for the regional, which is 10 minutes in the opposite direction. And then they get to go back to Washington for the semi-state 10 minutes again in that same direction. And the second game with Bloomfield and Hauser, don't overlook this Bloomfield team. I'm actually going to take them to beat Hauser in the day game to set up a nice matchup with Bar Reeve in the championship. Bloomfield's got a kid named Blake Neal, who's the all-time leading scorer at Bloomfield and is a great player and is about 6'5", a great guard for them. And then they have the kid who may or may not be Mike Hutzel's long-lost son, who can knock down some threes.
Just like Hutzel back in the day.
I like Bar Reeve and Bloomfield to meet at Washington, which Bloomfield's not that far of a drive to Washington either. So I like Bar Reeve and Bloomfield to meet at the Hatchet House and for the Vikings to advance to the state championship. And Keith Howington, their coach, would be the third Bar Reeve coach to take Bar Reeve to a state championship or win a state championship.
It's been a little boring the last couple, but I'm going the exact opposite. I'm taking Liberty Christian and Hauser in the championship game, and I'm taking Liberty Christian, the experience, the talent. I think Liberty Christian wins this semi-state, Michelle.
Well, Greg, I think it's going to be Bar Reeve in the first game. I think it's going to be Hauser in the second game, and I think it's going to be a great standing room only, loud, raucous environment to play in the championship game. I actually like this Liberty Christian team, but I also think they're going to be in an environment that they don't play in very often. Those schools down there, Bar Reeve, they know what it's like, and they'll feed off of it. And I like Bar Reeve.
By the way, the first 2 games of the year, Liberty Christian was at Anderson and at Brownsburg. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, but were those full gyms?
At Christmas
this is going to be
at Finley, at Park Tudor.
Right, the Park Tudor doesn't bring a crowd. You've seen those little small schools down there in the South. They have tremendous following.
I think these are going to be 2 really good basketball games. Bar Reeve, I think they're going to beat Liberty Christian. Liberty's either going to get on the bus early on Saturday or they're going to go down there Friday night and not sleep in their own beds. And I think Bar Reeve takes advantage of that opportunity and wins in a close game there. And then a second game, Bloomfield gave Bar Reeve a game earlier in the year, less than a month ago. They lost by 4 to that team. But I'm going to take Hauser in the other game. I think that's going to be a really good game as well. And in the championship game, I think Bar Reeve in another close one beats Hauser and they get to the state finals.
All right, guys, one of the best days of the year. And thanks, everyone, for joining me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Greg.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Greg.
Greg. Hey, you guys.